Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to stick to Hong Kong and we're going to return to a brewery that has now featured on the channel a good few times before. Now, I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the last few years, a couple of different styles, but if people were to ask me about this brewery, I would say that they're most definitely best known for their different kinds of lagers, and some of them are very close to what you would actually find in Germany or the Czech Republic, which is one of the reasons why I like this brewery so much. But the beer we're going to have a look at today is a sub-style that I haven't tried from these guys before. It is one that is quite close to my heart, actually. I do quite enjoy these, and it's also one of their latest releases at the time of filming. So yeah, needless to say, I'm very curious to see what this beer is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head to the island of Tsing, which is to the northwest of me here in Kowloon, and that means that we're going to have a look at another beer from the wonderful HK Lovecraft. So this particular beer is called Tranquility. It comes in at 4.6% ABV, and this one is a Japanese rice lager, but to be specific, it is a Hoji Genmaicha rice lager. So yeah, I'll tell you exactly what that is a little bit later on in the video, but yeah, I love my Japanese rice lagers. This one has got a little bit of a kind of Japanese tea element to it as well, so we'll need to see how we get on in that particular regard. But yeah, this is yet another one that I picked up at the wonderful Gur Beer in the One Mall in Tsim Sha Tsui in Kowloon in Hong Kong, so I do recommend you check them out if you find yourself here. I'll put the link to their Facebook page in the video description below, but this was one that they recommended to me to have a little look at, so here we are. But yeah, let's crack on with this one then and see what the beer is going to have in store for us. So, as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from HK Lovecraft before, and you will no doubt see more added to that list at some point in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the playlist for Hong Kong. That's being added to quite regularly just now, of course, because I am based here and I will be for the next little while. But make sure you check out the playlist of beers from all the other different countries as well, because there are some very interesting things on the channel these days. But yeah, let's have a little look at my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about HK Lovecraft once again. So HK Lovecraft, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Tsing, I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce it, but the island of Tsing in Kowloon, or New Territories. Really not sure about that actually, but yeah, they're based on the island of Tsing, a little bit to the northwest of me here in Kowloon in Hong Kong, and this company was founded by Perry Lam. So Perry studied brewing at the Siebel Institute in Chicago and also at the Domans Institute in Munich in Germany, and it was there that he completed his master brewing program. So this made him the first officially certified master brewer in all of Hong Kong. So the brewery is pretty much a brand new build almost, but it's equipped with a 2,000 litre Braucon kit from Germany, and they focus primarily on the brewing of lagers, although in recent times they have been doing a lot of cold IPAs and things. But Perry constructed the brewery with his own money, and they released their first beers in the summer of 2018. But over the years, Perry has continued to develop new recipes, and his beers have won a number of awards in different places. For me, the Helles and the Dunkel beers are pretty good actually, and very close to what you'll find in Germany. But the name HK Lovecraft is a play on the author's name H.P. Lovecraft. You know, he was the American author who was instrumental in the cosmic horror genre, which is something that Perry absolutely loves. But it's said that the Lovecraftian genre centres around fear of the unknown and the idea that craft beer is not known to many. And you know, the idea is that it's not known to many, and this is what's reflected in the artwork. on the labels of all their beers. But as of May 2024, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 60 different beers according to Untappd, and yeah, that number will no doubt continue to increase as time goes on. But like I said to you, they specialise mainly in the brewing of lagers, but they've been doing quite a few cold IPAs in recent times, which, you know, kind of fits in, I guess, with the mantra of low temperature, bottom fermenting yeasts and all these kind of things. So yeah, that's everything you need to know about HK Lovecraft for the moment, I guess. But I've never been up to the brewery. I'll need to write to them and see if we can get an interview with Perry at some point. That would be quite interesting. But yeah, if you want to learn more, check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on and have a little look at the beer itself. So this is yet another little 330 milliliter can, which is the standard for HK Lovecraft. I do think they need to start putting their Dunkel, or at least the Helles, in 440s or 500 cans, to be honest with you. But you can see nice black top there with a golden ring pull, and the artwork on this one is really quite nice. There you can see the monk just kind of chilling and enjoying his tea, actually. So yeah, the artwork on this one is very, very nice. But yeah, it tells you a little bit on the side here. It says, all of us, the labourers, the brewers, the tasters, we are keepers of this art. Beer will remain as long as humans last. Uncannily brewed in Hong Kong. But yeah, the Hoji Genmaicha that's in this one, apparently it's a blend of roasted green tea and toasted brown mochi rice from Japan, actually. So this one should be pretty interesting to try. It's a little bit different from many other rice lagers that I've had. But let's get it out into the glass and see how we get on. 4.6% ABV, as I said to you. Let's have a little look at this and see what it's all about. I have to say, I'm very, very curious. Oh, yeah, definitely a little bit richer in colour than some of the other rice lagers that I've seen. But yeah, it looks good. So let me just line that up so that my OCD is happy. And yeah, you can see that this beer is poured with about a 2/3 finger of a frothy, I would say kind of cream coloured head there. You can see some kind of smaller, medium sized bubbles on the surface of the liquid there, and a few foamier ones going further up. But yeah, in all, the colour of this one's quite interesting, very rich, sort of light amber, actually. It looks a little bit more like a West Coast IPA, in honesty. But remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugar is caramelised, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well. And obviously in this case, the Hoji Genmaicha is playing a role in the colour that you get out of this beer. But yeah, not too much in the way of visible carbonation. There is one stream just going up the side of the glass here, but maybe that's just a little patch on the glass or something. You can see if I put my hand behind the glass, the beer does have a little bit of that kind of natural haze to it, as you might expect. But all in all, looks pretty much as you would expect from a lager beer. A little bit, as I say, one of the kind of darker rice lagers that I've come across, in all honesty. But I think I have one in the fridge that's probably going to be even darker than this, actually. So yeah, I don't think we need to say anything more about the appearance of this one. You can see the head is faded away to just be a little bit of a wispy foamy layer, and you've got that ring around the edge of the glass. So I think it's time that we go on and have a wee look at the aroma of this one and just see what it's all about. I'm very, very curious about this. That smells pretty nice, actually. I was a bit worried about this one when I read about what the Hoji Genmaicha actually is, because, you know, I'm not the greatest fan of tea beers, in all honesty. So yeah, not the greatest fan of those, but at the same time, it's yeah, at the same time, it's quite nice and quite sweet, honestly. This one's, it kind of reminds me a little bit of a Märzen in terms of its the level of sweetness and stuff that you're getting from the aroma. Obviously it's quite unique and not really similar to the profile, but just the level of sweetness and the kind of vibe of the beer is sort of similar. But yeah, aroma wise, this is very, very nice, very sweet, slightly toasty and things like that. I like it. So yeah, let's just try and break this down then and describe it for you a wee bit more in depth, as we often do. So the backbone of this beer, you do get a little bit of this like sweet brown bready bread crust coming out of this one. Is there a little bit of cracker and things? Yeah, maybe a little bit of like a cracker sort of woody note in there. But yeah, quite sweet wholemeal brown bready character. Yeah, brown bread, sweet cracker, woodiness. Yeah, I really like how this, how all of this pieces together. Yeah, it really is. I could sit and smell this thing all day. I always think it's quite important to have a wee look at the aroma of your beers before you drink them, because it's half the experience with craft beer, and of course it will teach you something. It's just something that kind of came across from when I studied chemistry. We're always told smell the chemicals so that if you spill something you can recognise it, and that's kind of stuck with me over the years with doing these beer reviews. It helps you develop quite a sensitive nose as well, in all honesty. But yeah, on top of the kind of crackery notes, you get like a sweet wholemeal brown bready character in this one. But then yeah, you start to get that sweet ricey character as well, this toasty brown mochi rice. Very, very oily, very, very sweet. I do enjoy a little bit of mochi when I'm in Japan, but for me, you know, it's the thing I always struggle with is I would never know when to swallow it because it's so kind of oily and chewy and stuff. But yeah, the sweetness you get out of this is really nice. It's kind of like, it's not quite honey, it's not quite like oily McVitie's digestive biscuit, it's kind of somewhere in the middle. But it almost smells like it's got the consistency of like straight up caramel and stuff like that. So yeah, you do get a little bit of straight up caramel in this one, incidentally. There is a little bit of biscuit, but yeah, the ricey notes out of this one is just giving the beer this really, really big oily sweetness. Ricey sweetness for me is very, very unique. I've had like sweet rice ice cream in Taiwan before, and you know, the kind of ricey sweetness that you get in this beer reminds me of that a little bit. But yeah, all in all, the way that everything kind of pieces together in this one, I think, is really, really quite interesting. So yeah, there's maybe a little bit of white bread in this as well. But yeah, I think we've said everything we really can about the more malty side of the beer. It takes you a little bit of time to get your head around it, in honesty, but it's good. On the hoppy side of things then, the hoppy side of this beer really takes a back seat to everything else that's going on. And the thing I'm surprised about this one is that I do get a little bit of the tea coming out of the beer, but it's quite sweet and it sits at the top of the nose. And I think that's maybe what's suppressing a little bit of the kind of green component of this beer. So for me, the hoppy side of the beer, I think it must be a little bit of German Hallertau or something that's in here, because it's very, very smooth and really kind of bright in a way. So yeah, there's a little touch of sort of earthy kind of character coming out of this one. There is a little bit of a herbal sort of thing. Not really much in the way of floral aromaticity. It is more like a kind of wet, leafy, fresh cut grass kind of thing that's coming out of this one. So yeah, I think that's everything we really need to say about the green component. Let's round off the aroma with a wee look at the fruity side of the beer then. Yeah, I mean, aroma wise, the fruity side of this beer is pretty interesting as well. It smells kind of like, you know, you've got the tea blended in with the fruits as well, but you've certainly got this little bit of kind of sultana, you know, dry white green grapes. There's some oily pear in there. There's maybe like a teeny little hint of, you know, dried apricot or something like that. But all in all, the fruity side of this beer is pretty mild-mannered and very in keeping with this one. The more that you smell of this beer, the more of the tea comes out of it, and that wet, kind of green grassy, leafy sort of thing. But as I always say, take a little bit of time to just enjoy the aroma before you get stuck into it. But I do think it's about time that we have a taste of this one and just see what it's all about. So yeah, this one is the Tranquility, a 4.6% ABV Hoji Genmaicha Rice Lager from HK Lovecraft in Tsing here in Hong Kong. Let's get stuck into this. This should be interesting. Heard good things about this beer. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Oh yeah. I tell you something, it gives you a lot more tea on the in the actual flavour than it does in the aroma. Like, you can feel the rice underneath, like in the impact flavour, it's the tea that comes out, but underneath, yeah, it's all about the ricey side of the beer actually. So that is pretty interesting. I have to say that about this one. It is quite an interesting beer to wrap your head around. So yeah, interesting stuff for sure. So let's try and break this one down then, just describe it for you a wee bit more in depth. Yeah, if you like tea, you're going to like this beer. You can see why the Hong Kongers would like this one so much. Like pretty much everyone everyone that I heard from that tried this beer, they were all Hong Kongers and they absolutely loved it. I say I'm not the greatest fan of tea, and just never really got into it. But yeah, this is something that would definitely suit the Hong Kong palate when you think about the Guangdong food and things like that here. So yeah, let's just break it down and describe it for you a bit more in depth, as we always do. Middle third of the palate then, the backbone of the beer, you've got that lovely smooth kind of wholemeal brown bready bread crust coming out of this one. As you move further forward on that middle third of your palate, as I very often get, there's a little touch of the kind of woodiness coming out of the beer. Then you have this layer of it's a very slight smattering of cracker, but then you have this lighter wholemeal brown bready character coming out of the beer, and that, I think the breadiness and the graininess that you get out of this one just lingers into the aftertaste too. It's quite interesting from that perspective. So yeah, the brown bready side of this beer, the more that you drink of this one as well, it kind of sweetens up a little bit. And then above that, you start to get the ricey side of the beer. So you can taste this sort of oily layer in this one. Yeah, it's like toasty brown rice actually. It reminds me of one of the puddings that I've had in Japan. I have had brown rice, like sweet toasty rice puddings and stuff like that in Japan. I forget the names of the foods and stuff like that I have in Hong Kong and Japan and things like that. I really should get better at remembering that stuff. But yeah, the sweet toasty rice layer that's in there lingers, and it gives you this kind of lasting sweetness into the aftertaste and a wee bit of dryness as well. But above that, the other thing I would say is the kind of tea flavours that you get out of this one, they feel as if they're infused into that kind of brown bready layer, and it takes a little bit of time for that to show its head basically. But yeah, beyond that, it's quite nice. So yeah, on the on the kind of brown sugary side of things, above that, you do get what I was talking about before. Like in the dead centre of your palate, you can feel there's a little bit of a straight up caramel in there, but it's a little bit drier. It's like a toasty caramel, and as you move further out from it, it's a little bit more honey-like, and then you also have a little bit of this more kind of biscuity type note coming out of this one. So yeah, the way that pieces together, I think, is quite nice. So all of that sits on top of that oily ricey layer that you have in this beer, and then obviously the tea, you get the dryness and the bread and stuff just pushing its way out of that. So yeah, I like that about this one too. So Yeah, on top of that, you maybe just have a very slight, like slightly woody kind of nutty note pushing its way out of the beer into the aftertaste too. But I think at this point we've covered everything we need to say about the middle third of the palate then. So yeah, let's go to the back third of the palate. As I've often said, the back third of your palate is going to give you similar flavours to the middle third of your palate, just at different intensities. So yeah, the back third of your palate, you have you can feel in that border region there's a little bit of bready build up in there, brown bread in the base, the white bread on top of that. The tea feels as if it's infused in there, but yeah, the brown you get this the brown bready bread crust in the base, then you've got the cracker. The brown bready layer feels a little bit lighter and taller and more airy. Then above that there's a wee bit of a white bready character as well. So yeah, the way all of that pieces together I think is nice too. But yeah, the tea flavour really lingers there as well, but you can feel a little bit the toasty brown sugar just creeping over the top of that, and then you have the kind of yeasty side of the beer as well. So yeah, the way that this one goes together I think is quite nice in that regard. The yeasty side of the beer for me is like I would, you know, it's kind of like a kind of crusty brown bread in the middle, a sweeter brown bread around the outside, and then the bread crust around the exterior of it. And yeah, that sits all on top of that back third of the palate. But yeah, definitely you can feel the flavour on the back third of your palate is definitely taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle third of your tongue, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. So yeah, the way that that goes together in this one I think is quite interesting too. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things then, in the back corners of the palate, you've got that nice little bit of earthiness in there. And that there is more earthiness in the hoppy side of things to this one than the aroma would have you believe. But as you move further forward, yeah, it's a little bit herbal as well. The sort of earthy herbal thing you get out of this beer is a little bit more akin to English hops, you know, like Kent Goldings or something. But yeah, as you move further forward onto the front corners of your palate there, it's got a little bit of floral aromaticity, and then round the front curve of the tongue, it's a little bit lighter and more grassy as well, and it's quite a wet green component that you're getting out of this one. It's like quite a leafy, wet, freshly cut grass sort of thing that comes out of this beer. So yeah, that's pretty interesting as well. On the front third of your palate then, and the fruity side of things. So yeah, border region between front third and middle third of your palate. You get a nice little bit of bready build up in there. You can feel the brown bread in the base, a little bit of an almost white bready character on top, and then the tea is infused throughout all of that. But the base of that front third of your palate, yeah, it's the bread crust again, cracker, brown bread, and then you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. So let's have a little look at that. Yeah, the fruity side of the beer is pretty much as I said it would be from the aroma of the beer. Like there's a little bit of sultana at the back. There's a little bit of the sultana at the back of that front third of the palate. As you move further forward, it becomes a little bit more kind of oily, peary, and yeah, it's just got a little bit of a dry. It's maybe like a wee dry apricot-y sort of thing. But you get on that front third of the palate, you get the tea kind of just pushing its way out through the fruit in this one, but maybe a bit of the toasty brown rice as well is giving you this little bit of fruitiness. Like quite often rice can give you a wee bit of a gooseberry type flavour as well, and there's a wee bit of that going on with the kind of sultanas and pear and stuff like that. So yeah, a wee bit of the kind of dry toasty ricey character I think is just sitting underneath that fruity oily bubble that I was talking about, but that takes a wee bit of time to show. It shows more in the aftertaste. But yeah, all in all, this is quite an interesting beer, and it is one that's tested my palate a little bit. This is what you want after 4,000 odd beer reviews. You want something that is going to make you think a wee bit. So yeah, I think that's everything we need to say about the flavour of this one. Mouthfeel wise, for me, this beer is, you know, top end of light bodied, maybe bottom end of mid bodied. The carbonation is quite smooth in this one. It has got a wee bit of a prickle to it, but it's, you know, a little bit more oily and slick in a way. So yeah, a wee bit of a more oily, slick character to this one. And then, IBU wise, I think this is probably what, about 20 or something like that. Or just, it says on the can there, I was right, 20. So yeah, about 20-ish IBUs for sure. The malt base, bit of dryness underneath, smoothness in the middle, and a wee bit of like a drier sweetness on top. You've got some nice oily, fruity character to this one as well. But yeah, the complexity in this beer is in the malt base. It's got a dry sweetness to it, and it shows you a little bit of that tea dryness into the aftertaste as well. So all in all, I think this is quite an interesting beer, and it certainly, it certainly has some interesting elements to it for sure. So as I always say, just take a bit of time, think over your beers, and if you're interested in rice lagers, this is certainly one of the more unusual ones that I've come across actually, but I can see why Hong Kongers and Japanese people and stuff would like this, because just the tea element. Tea is obviously very popular in Asia, something I just never got into so much, but a lot of people would like this. I can say, yeah, a lot of people would quite enjoy this one, but I'm more keen on the old school Helles and the Dunkels and stuff like that. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this review. So yeah, this one was the Tranquility, a Hoji Genmaicha rice lager at 4.6% ABV from the wonderful HK Lovecraft in Tsing here in Hong Kong. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Pardon me, let me know what your favourite beers are from HK Lovecraft as well, and we will no doubt return to these guys again at some point in the very near future. Until then, check out my social media, check out theirs, and I'll see you guys in another review very, very soon. Slàinte, skål, and cheers.